This potentially damaging new information is coming from lawyers for 5 victims of an alleged pedophile priest in Wisconsin. I spoke to one of the lawyers this morning. He says they have internal church documents showing that top Vatican officials, including the future Pope Benedict, failed to fully punish a priest named Lawrence Murphy, who was accused of molesting as many as 200 boys at a school for the deaf in Wisconsin. The lawyer for the victims says the documents show that while there was arguing among church officials over what to do with Murphy, their chief concern may have been avoiding scandal. The documents show that in 1996, aides to the future pope, then named Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, okayed a secret trial for Father Murphy, who was the accused priest. But later, when Ratzinger received a personal letter from Father Murphy claiming that he'd already repented for his sins and that he was in poor health, that trial was shut down. A statement from the Vatican this morning says the future pope only learned about the case decades after the abuse and that his office has addressed the situation by restricting Father Murphy's public ministry and requiring that Father Murphy accept the full responsibility for the gravity of his acts. We should say that Father Murphy died in 1998. At the time he died, Robin, he was still a priest.
He was still a priest at that time, and those documents, I mean, people are going to really take a close look at that. But, you know, I don't have to tell you what's going on in Europe right now with the Pope. A very big scandal in Ireland and in other countries.
And in Germany especially. That's perhaps the biggest concern for the Pope right now. There's questions about how he handled allegations of sexual abuse when he was an archbishop in Germany. So, as you say, the timing is very tricky for the Vatican and for this Pope.
How about the stories that we're hearing from the alleged victims in Wisconsin, emotional testimony we're hearing?
Right. You know, there's one in particular that stands out of a boy who he's now a man, but at the time he says he talks about the horror of his abuse and how that horror was made exponentially worse by the fact that he couldn't communicate with his parents because they didn't understand sign language.
Because they didn't understand sign language.
Right. So he's a young deaf boy who couldn't tell his parents about this abuse.
All right, Dan, thank you for staying on top of this.
Pleasure.
I know you will continue to do that.